good morning, and welcome to Doppler's Gear Garage for another Saturday get-together. Today is going to be a slightly shorter show because I got to get back to demoing this lovely Rev E rectifier. But I didn't want to not show up for you today. So gosh darn it, here we are. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let's say hello to a couple of people. Sonia, great to see you. Hello, I trust you're doing fantabulous. Gosh darn it. Mario, what's shaking there? Good morning. I love that iconic cat there. All right, gosh darn it, Albert. Hello, hello, hello. Always pleasure to see you. So this is the new guitar. Holy cow. I've been so excited to check this little guy out. It's been kind of hold on. Got a thing. It's still got that kind of new guitar smell. That is to say, there's a certain period of time when you go to break an instrument in, the neck feels unplayed, and this guitar has still got that vibe. But it's really interesting. It came stock with 10s, and I'm keeping the 10s on there. And I've spent a bunch of time kind of fiddling with just getting the action and everything kind of right, and the combination of action and with this, adjusting the tension. It's for that right feeling. It's getting pretty close, not totally there. In any case, super excited to have this here. Chris Alexander, I've been threatening to tell you about this guitar and actually let you see it. So here we go. I love the mining. So funny story. First of all, Sonny, what's happening? Great to see you, my dear friend. You sent me a message. I owe you a message. It's been a little crazy. The color scheme, I guess you know Chris. That's awesome. So, John Mello, good morning. Pleasure coffee now. Okay, let's do this. Gosh darn it. All right, so let me know where it is that you're coming from and what it is that you're raising up. Here's to you. Joy to the world. Gosh darn it. I'm drinking some peach with some muscle milk. Trying to build those muscles. Not really. That's probably a little hot there. Got a couple of things I want to cover today. First of all, my dear friend, Chris Alexander. Great to say, hey, what's going on, Matt? So, cool thing happened this week with me and my buddy, Matt. Great player, first of all, Matt King. He reached out. I was like, dude, my monster cable kind of finally gave up the ghost. And I have what used to be a second off-site storage unit that was costing us a flippin' fortune. So we moved a bunch of stuff out of there, and there's kind of a room in the house here that's become the on-site storage. And I had this box of cables, and he was like, dude, my monster cable kind of broke. Do you have any suggestions? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, have I got some cables for you? So in any case, it's my pleasure to be able to send out a little care package to my buddy Matt. He's now equipped with more monster cables than he's going to need for a while. In any case, that was kind of fun. So Matt's a great player, and so it's my pleasure to be able to support there. So thanks so much. He did cover the shipping. So in any case, sooner than later, I'm going to be talking about some of the stuff that's here that's like stuff that I don't know what to do with. So I'm like, hey, if you want to cover the shipping, it's yours. So I'll put together a list about that sooner than later. Brian Wilson, Guitar Works, what's going on? Great to see you. Welcome back, my friend. guitar's got some sustain. Okay. Gosh darn it. Next to the pool in Chattanooga. You're not drinking sweet tea next to the pool? I guess you can't have glasses next to the pool. And he goes, Peter, what's going on, my dear friend? Orange Blossom Special. I love that name. So the funny thing is that usually Song Moinster, good morning. Great to right back at you. Thanks so much. So the deal is, I normally don't buy a guitar on looks. So this one was sent out by the good folks at Fender to do a review on. I ended up buying the guitar because I was like, all right, first of all, it's gorgeous, and second of all, it's a fabulous instrument. This one, I saw it, it's a Guitar Center / Musician's Friend special, this finish. And I just saw it, and I kind of went, wow, just flippin' gorgeous. Oh, hey, I was waiting to do something for you. So I am not a kind of unboxing video kind of guy. However, I did want to do something special this morning. I started to do it before, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to do this here with y'all. We're going to do the unpick guarding thing. So basically, as I'm sure you know, there's a little plastic foil that comes on top of the pick guard to keep it all new-like. And we're going to attempt to peel it off in one fell swoop like this. So hold on, let's zoom in on this for a little special action. There we go. So there we go. I wanted to do that here with y'all because, gosh darn it, I did. So that was kind of fun. In any case, that's toast. So the crazy thing is I just saw this finish and I was like, oh, holy cow. I absolutely fell in love. And I said, Melissa, you know, I don't really need another guitar, but holy gosh darn it. So I went out to Guitar Center and I pulled it down off the wall. The action was about this high up in the air. I'm not going to fault Epiphone for that. It should have been set up when it came into the Guitar Center, and I don't think it was. So I'm there in the store, and I'm kind of gently, they're these little guys right here. I don't know, I call them rockers, but they're these little twisty, grab it and twist things so you can lower the bridge without actually having to have a screwdriver, because I don't walk around with one. It could be socially awkward to like, hey, it's me and my screwdriver. So in any case, so I'm there kind of tweaking on this thing, trying to get the action lower, kind of going, yeah, there's a sound. So I bought it. And, you know, kind of a couple weeks later, I came back and there was another one on the shelf. And I kind of was wondering, they must have had another one in the back room. And I kind of thought about it. Did I get the better of the two? And I played the other one. I'm like, yeah, this was the better one, which is always nice. But the finish is lovely. And it's a custom. So what's neat about it is it has the ebony fingerboard on it. And I'm really, really, really happy with the Epiphone pickups these days. They're really putting really great sounding pickups on there. This thing plays beautifully. It's taken a little moment to kind of get the action again, where the height of the strings and the tension when I go to bend, it feels just right. Because I'm, you know, trying to get that right balance of right hand and left hand where it's if there's enough string tension, the notes seem to ring a little bit more than if it's a little too floppy, because then it sounds a little too floppy. But the thing is, with tens at standard tuning, especially if you get the action a little bit higher, it can be a little bit of a workout. So I've been trying to find where this guitar is going to live, and I'm pretty close. And the finish, I'm pretty sure this will be some sort of veneer that they put on the top. But gosh darn it. And then I used to have a 71 Les Paul Custom, and I sold it to my buddy Steve Karras, different Steve Karras than many of you know, and he ended up selling that to a music store, but he sent me a picture of it, and the binding had gotten all that beautiful yellow. This is kind of what did you call it, Peter, rather, Davidoff Orange Blossom. I will take that. It is kind of an orange blossom, and I was like, holy cow. In any case, enough about this and enough about me. Let me get caught up over here. Let me know if you want me to move anything I may be interested in. I actually have some cables that have your name on them, so I will gladly cover the shipping of any dusty Line 6 you want to move along. Good to know. Craig Martini, what's going on, my man? How goes it? It's been a minute. Always a pleasure. Great to see you. All right. Thank you. Very happy about the new edition. Uh, can't wait for the plastic to look scratched up. That's why I pull it off and it looks brand new again. That's exactly. So the funny thing is, I was playing on it, I was like, oh, it's still got the plastic thing on there. So it was kind of nice. I was like, but I'm going to save it for today. So thanks for that. What do they call that color scheme? Uh, I have no. They call it widow something, widowmaker. And there's a kind of a red and a green version of it. But for me, the orange blossom special was kind of the way to go. All right, let me get to work here. It's going to be a slightly shorter show today because I got to get back to this thing. But I did not want to disappoint, and I really appreciate your taking time out of your weekend to show up and hang out with me. So my buddy Chris Alexander, present and accounted for, always sends questions through. I don't always get to his questions every week, but in this case, we're doing a little bit of catch up. Do I have a particular order that I always prefer to place my pedals in? It's a great question. So up top here, they're not on at the moment. I put together one of the demos for this amp. It's a Revy rectifier. It's from September of 1992, and it's kindly on loan en route from my buddy Steve to my buddy. Well, he's not my buddy yet, but he kind of is because he arranged for me to be able to borrow this, Crazy Kenny in Las Cruces, New Mexico. In any case, there were somewhere around 100 to 150 of this particular version of the rectifier made. So one of the demos I'm doing is putting stuff in the loop for a clean sound. And so, there are some very specific things that I do, good, bad, or otherwise, that are my kind of rinse and repeat things. So per that question, which is great, first of all, for time-based effects, I'm always delaying to reverb. And that, interestingly enough, what you're hearing right here is not that. So what you've got is I will show you just for the sake of this. Let's see. Let me go into preview mode. Hey, I've gotten fancy here. And for preview mode, I want to be over, not there. I want to be over in Universal Audio. So what I'm going to show you is Universal Audio Console. There we go. Publish. There we go. All right. So what you're seeing is an application called Console. And it basically is a virtual console. And over on the right-hand side here that I'm turning off are the sends that come from, I'm on this fader right here, number 3. And basically you've got sends that are going to, from here over to here. And so what you're hearing, these are running in parallel. So here's the reverb, first of all. And here's the delay. So they're running parallel to one another. Now, normally when we run a guitar rig, we run them in series, one into the other. I would normally run my delay into my reverb. Let me get back out of here. So the point being is that is running those bad boys. Come on, there we go. In parallel. So they're basically the feed coming from that channel strip is going to both of those at the same time. However, when I'm running a traditional guitar rig, I have a tendency to run my delays into my reverb. So you kind of get the initial delays and the direct signal. Let's take the delays out of the picture for just a minute. You hear the direct signal kind of making it splash into the reverb. But in addition to that, you've got your direct signal going into the delays, and in turn, those go into the reverb. So you kind of get these primary and secondary and tertiary splashes hitting the reverb. So you get this lovely wall of sound that, again, is the delay feeding the reverb. However, running in series gets you relatively close to that vibe. Now, that said, when it comes to drive pedals and whatnot, If I'm going to run a compressor, I have a tendency to run that at the beginning of the chain, unless I'm going to be running it in the effects loop of an amplifier. For example, right there is the JP2C there. That has a really, really tight clean channel. And I personally prefer to loosen that up a little bit, but I prefer to do that by putting a compressor in the loop after the preamp section, but before the power amp section. Traditionally, if I were going to use drive pedals with that amp, although I might not normally do that, as of late, kind of with this whole rectifier thing, the rectifier people are fanatical about putting a drive pedal in the front end of a boogie, which seemed really strange to me initially, but that's actually what you're hearing. Kind of hard to argue with that. So, backing up a step, if I'm going to use a compressor in a normal situation, I start there. Then I will go into an overdrive. Then I will go into distortion. Then I will go into modulation, like a chorus or a flanger. Then I will go on my delay and go into my reverb, and kind of all in series in one fell swoop. In this particular situation, what I'm doing is using the drive into the front end of the amplifier. If I were going to use a compressor, I would use that at the beginning of the loop, and then in turn I would run into the delay and the reverb. A little bit different kind of when you start separating stuff out. There's generally, if you will, your pre and your post effects. If I were going to use modulation, I would put that in the loop after the compressor, before the delay and the reverb, with one small exception. Is this delay, that is the Universal Audio Starlight, you have the ability to add modulation to the delays. In this particular plugin that I'm running into, which is effectively what's running on console here, I am not able to add modulation to this. And this is a plugin called the Cooper Time Cube, and it's one of my favorite delays because the way it sits with the guitar. You know, the thing about a delay, in my opinion, is you want it to kind of, if you will, kind of hug the hips, if you will, of the guitar sound. So it's there, but not in the way. And on this particular delay, you have the ability to have both a treble and a bass control to kind of fine tune the organic quality of the sound of the delay, which is a big deal. So in any case, that's kind of my general take on all of that stuff. Let me double check that I can see the comments here, because I want to be able to do that. Okay, so, Anil, what's going on? Great to see you, my friend. Craig, thank you very much, my friend. You, of all people, would know that. You're looking sharp there, by the way. Always a pleasure. Great musician, great friend. Great to see you. So it is a bus, to answer your question. So going a step deeper. Sorry, my apologies for not mentioning that. All right, we're going to have a quick little lesson here that hopefully will be a benefit to many. And so I'm going to make it quick and efficient, but it's a great question that Matt had. And we're talking about if you're going to potentially be running effects in a traditional setting. So I'm going to start off in console here. And we're here in console. So again, what's happening is I'm running into this channel strip number 3. And you can see that you should see input there. In turn, I'm running from that, feeding the delay right here on the right-hand side. And that is a bus that's sending from this channel strip out to kind of the master stereo left and right. And then the same thing with the reverb, and then they are running together like this. Okay, now if I were to be doing the same sort of thing, get into the right window here, there we go, inside Pro Tools, it would be doing something like this. Now I realize that window's a little small there. I wonder if I can make that bigger here. No, I can't. All right, so the deal is, what I would do, let's just say I've got this input that's coming right here. And I'm going to set that to input number 3, which is where I'm getting my input from. You know what? Hey, I'm not going to worry about the latency. All right, I'm going to mute this. I'm going to do this. And I think we'll still be passing audio if I do this. So this allows us to hear. Now, that right there is that input there. Let me just see on my meters that is passing signal. It does appear to be passing signal. Let me just double check that that in fact is. Good. All right. Then what I would do inside Pro Tools is I would take, come on, let me get out of here, is I would take a send and a stereo bus. I would go to 1 and 2, and over here I would instantiate a Cooper Time Cube plugin right here. I would in turn go ahead and load DD Rev E Metal as my preset, and this guy is running on pure wet over here. So the same thing what I was doing there inside console. Now the next thing I'm going to do is over here I need to actually get some level going, because by default it calls up a fader here, but by default it's 0. So what you're going to hear now that I've got this guy selected to bus 1 and 2 is, as I bring up this fader, you're going to hear, there you go. All right, now I can do the same thing. I'm going to mute that with some reverb. And in this particular case, I'm going to call up my new favorite reverb in the entire flippin' world, the incredible Fab Filter. This thing is crazy. I currently have this on demo, but let's see. There we go. Now I need to set up, basically I need to do the same thing. So going from my channel strip, that's my input there. I'm going to instantiate bus 3 and 4. Over here, I'm going to choose bus 3 and 4. And that's to answer your Matt's question. I'm putting these on an aux bus. And then on this guy, I now have that plate reverb. And I, again, need to bring up this level here. So I've muted the delay so you can hear what should be. There you go. The reverb. Now, I think I forgot to do one thing on this reverb, which is to make it such, there we go. It's just pure reverb. There you go. So now what we've got is a combination of the direct signal, and delay. And then there's reverb as well. Delay and reverb. I'm going to make an adjustment to this reverb here real quick. Now this is called Fab Filter, and it allows me to adjust this. Now I'm going to chill it out a little bit. All right, so here's just the delay and the direct signal of the. Here's just the directional and the reverb. And now them together. All right, so that is that whole little deal happening over there. Now I'm going to mute that. I'm going to come back into my regular view, back to live mode. Cancel. There we go. Okay, good. There we go. And we should be here now. And let's get back out of there. I'm going to get back over to here. There we go. All right, so hopefully all of that was a reasonable use of your time explaining kind of what's going on with all of that. All right. Okay, so, Brett Van V, I'm playing my, the funny thing is I was thinking about you. I was playing my Epiphone just for you. Brett and I have a funny conversation about all this. So, Brett, first of all, awesome. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. Okay. Oh boy, another great question. All right, hold on. Let me just get caught up here. Holy cow. Okay, hold on. Sorry. There we go. All right, so live, do I use a different type of reverb, hall plate, etc.? So generally, great question. I have a tendency when I'm in the box, here I lean towards plate reverbs, and generally speaking, I will use a plate reverb as well when I'm playing live, unless I'm using the stock reverb and an amplifier. Just something about that sound really appeals to me. Not only that, the great thing about the Universal Audio Starlight and the heck is your name? You're not Woodrow, you are Golden. Is those have the exact algorithms you heard me using there. No, not the Fab Filter. One of my other favorite reverbs is the various UA stuff, and the Lexicon 224 and the EMT 140, those are in there. So basically the Cooper Time Cube, if you register the Starlight, you get that as an additional delay inside. So basically I'm able to do what I call a round trip, where I can take what I would use inside the DAW and bring it into the loop there, which is really, really cool. Great question. Okay. So again, I have a tendency, Albert, I'm a big fan of the plate reverb, and being able to take the Lexicon 224 or the EMT 140, which is a little bit more vintagey in the vibe, and have those on tap live and or in the studio is great. Good morning, Rick Harrison. Always a pleasure making your phenomenal instruments. Great to see you. Thank you so much. Okay, let's see. Eric, you were much appreciated. Thank you and good morning. Okay. Great to see you, Eric. Hello. So great question. So one of the things that I have a tendency to do is I'm a big fan of channel switching amps. That is not to say that in the past I haven't used a Roland JC120 or some sort of kind of amp like that. There is another amp here that's kind of a fancy pants Roland, and I'm going to forget the model of it, but it's kind of like a JC120 on steroids, and that I used to use with my Road King. But basically, there are times, for example, if you look at Metallica, where if you want something that's markedly clean, markedly stereo chorus, JC120 is just a great way to go, and being able to go back and forth between that and a Marshall or a Boogie, that's kind of a classic combination, right? And I learned that from my buddy Mike Mong, who used to use the JC120 in combination with a GK, and he did a thing where he'd put a Boss delay in the loop, but he also had as I recall, he had a GE7 that he would use for a solo boost. Very clever little vibe. So he would step on the GE7 and he'd get a solo boost. Crafty stuff. So that is to say, generally speaking, with the Boogie stuff, because they have great clean and great dirty channels, I'll have a tendency to use one amplifier. And more often than not, I will use a pair of amplifiers. One of the hacks that I came up with, and they're not in frame, they're over there, is using a pair, and Albert knows this. The Badlander is a 3-channel Boogie. I should say it's a 3-mode boogie, like many of these amps, across 2 channels. And because I had a pair of them, I was like, isn't there a way I could get all 3 modes working? So what I did was I basically used a Y cable going into the front end of both amps, or an AB box, and then I used the Mesa Boogie MIDI matrix to be able to get them to switch channels. And in turn, what I was able to do was to make it so I could have my choice of which of the technically in this particular case, they've got 2 channels with 2 modes each, and I was able to kind of get the channel switch on one amp and just be in the other, and then I brought those into a stereo pedal, and then I split that back into the loop so I could kind of choose which front end I was going into with the AB box, and then sort of with the MIDI matrix and all that stuff happened via MIDI. I could choose which of the amps was feeding the sound, both again going into the split and after coming out of the preamp out, and then we go into a stereo effect and it would feed both power amp ins on both amps. So you're hearing one or the other of the 2 different preamp sections, giving you the ability to have the access to all 3 of the different modes, 2 on one amp, 1 on the other, and being able to channel switch and do all of that stuff via MIDI, and then in turn make all that stuff happen. So in that particular instance, I was technically using 2 different amps to kind of be able to do exactly what you're talking about. So it gave me more options such that I would use one dedicated for clean, the other for crunch, and I don't think they call it crush on that amp. They call it more-ish. That's not the technical name, by the way. Awesome. Okay. Again, Matt, great question, Matt. Thank you for that. Who's that picture on the right? I hope I have the right screen going. Okay. Brett, asking the $1 million question. I love that. So one of the things that I've been doing is I have been studying extensively with this guy online, Christian Keller Studios. He's this crazy German guy, absolutely out of his mind in the best way. He knows more about high gain tones and mixing modern metal and tracking guitar than anybody I've had the privilege of being able to crawl into their brain. There's also a bunch of stuff on there with Nolly, from Get Good Drums, and so I bought a bunch of the Get Good stuff as well, including the crazy bass plugin they've got, which is nuts. And I also bought the Nolly Mesa Boogie cabinet suite, which basically runs in the box. One of the things that Christian is big on professing is using low and high pass filters. So for those of you who don't know, let me go back inside the DAW here, because first of all, anybody who does any recording, you're eventually going to run into a certain number of problems. Let's make the analogy of rush hour. Everybody's trying to fill up the space getting from point A to point B. And the idea of reducing things to stay in their lane is kind of what EQ is all about. Ideally, you should get a good enough sound that kind of going in, you're happy. Oh, let me unmute my channel there. You need to be over here. There we go. Then a little hot. Just set the direct signal sound. Before you start adding the special sauce and more special sauce, and the reason that's important is if you kind of have all the sauce on, you may be hearing the beauty of the lushness of the and the effects can sound so good, you might be kind of not noticing as much, like, but when I turn that stuff off, maybe my bass tone isn't exactly what I want it to be. All right, getting back to the heart of the matter, let's see if I can do this without breaking anything. We're going to get over here. We're going to go into preview mode, and I'm going to set up going over to Pro Tools. And good, we're there. So we're going to publish. All right, that should mean that I am now in Pro Tools. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in kind of my go-to high pass and low pass filter. Now, when I last saved this, I did not include the high pass, so I'm going to put it in there. So right now, I'm going to pull up what is DD Rev E HPF and EQ V2. Now, there are two things that are happening. So one, this guy right here, let me get rid of this, is what's called a high pass filter. And so what I've done is using this little guy right here, I've got this set probably a little lower than I need it. I've got it set at 41 hertz, which is, it probably should be further up the food chain than there. Well, I guess I should probably give you a demonstration. So let me mute input here and mute this and that. All right, so let's go. I should have input on this channel strip here. This is kind of fun. All right, so I am now going like this. All right, I'm going to mute the delay and the reverb. So I'm going to turn this off. And there's not too much rumble happening at the bottom, but if I take this guy and I bring it all the way like this. All right, there's that. Then, actually, I'm going to bring up the bass on the amp is what I'm going to do. All right, that way you can kind of hear that guy going. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this frequency up. And you're going to notice it kind of begins to, you may not hear it quite as clear because we're streaming, but there you go. You can hear it happening a little bit down there, and then we're tightening it up. That's on. That's off. It's subtle. And then what we've got is this little frequency that's happening right here. That one you can probably hear. That resonant frequency going away. So not only that, not only am I applying the high pass, that is to say, that is letting the highs pass, but what I did was I took this guy and instead of pulling it down, I pushed it up, and I basically, there you go. And what you do is you kind of sweep that frequency back and forth, and you go, okay, once you find it, that is to say, I'm going to have to use my mouse on the left hand, but basically what you do is you go like this. Now on this particular guitar with this particular tone, I'm actually noticing it there more so. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to pull that frequency down some. And I'm going to lower this guy back down a little bit further down. So now what we're also going to do is we're going to go on the top side, and we're going to pull some of this business right here. And as we bring this down a little bit further, I went a little further than I wanted to, but what happens is when I take that all the way out, you can hear there's a bunch of kind of fizzy stuff that happens in the top a little bit. And part of it I am using a distorted sound, but the idea is when I take all of this out, and then I add the fun stuff back in. in a really cool, groovy place because of your ability to use. Let me get back to live mode. We're going to be back over here. Those high pass and low pass filters, and the high pass filters lets the highs pass through, so that is you're getting rid of some of the muck on the bottom, and the low pass filter lets the lows pass through. So collectively, you're shaving that here and there, and then in turn, you're sweeping for those kind of fuddy frequencies. But that sort of stuff is one of the ways to get there. So cool, great question, Brett. And that is where the ability to kind of shape and, again, just bring in some of the excess information. The guitar doesn't lose its inherent character. One of the things that Christian talks about, and by the way, he's going to be sending me an affiliate link, not so I can make money, but so I can share it, make a little bit of money. But the point being is that I have absolutely lost my mind. I've learned so much in such a short period of time, and it's only getting better. Good morning. What's happening there? Nandini, always a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you sooner than later. Okay, Brett, the Pro 4 EQ shows where collisions are happening, so you can prune. Have you used it? So, okay. So, dare I say, a man after my own heart and pocketbook. So, for those of you that have not yet fallen into the world of Fab Filter, it kind of, what's happened is that like I've been a Universal Audio fanatic for a long time. Again, the ability to replicate what I use inside the DAW, inside the loop of my amplifier, is a giant win. However, one of the things in spending some time studying with Christian Kohle, and that's Christian with a K, and Kohle, Kohle, is that he's using Fab Filter, the Pro 4 EQ, whatever the heck the name of that EQ is, Pro Q4. So in addition to falling in love with the reverb, I'm about to spend what's probably going to be about $600 on buying a whole package of their stuff. One of the other things that's in one of the other videos that I've been studying, it's another way to approach what I was doing there. Brett, I'm going to see you and raise you 200. How about that? So Christian, one of the videos that I've been studying is talking about basically you have multi-band compression, but what he's calling this dynamic EQ. And basically, if you've got a frequency that's rearing its head, what you do is you tell the compressor around that frequency to, when that frequency gets excited, to reduce that. And there's some other really cool tricks that are deeper than that in terms of making the guitar work really well across the framework of a track, which is beyond the scope and time of what we have to do today. However, the ability to do what I did there, the problem is you get to a certain part in the track where I'm not going chunk, chunk, chunk on the bottom strings. Maybe we got rid of a frequency that went up at the top of the neck. Well, that's not going to work. When I get up to the top of the neck, and that's not going to work either. Where's my secret sauce? That's more like it. Well, you take some of that stuff out, where you dip a frequency, it means it's dipped for the entire track. So the great thing about using dynamic EQ, and gosh, it's really smart. So the thing, and this is, Brett, I will actually say this for your benefit. One of the things that you can do inside their, whatever their dynamic, their multi-band compressor is, you can actually choose the frequency, but you probably knew this, that the dynamics respond to, and it enables you to kind of make it such that when it needs to grab the frequency and reduce it, that's great, but it also makes it such that as you're working in the framework of a track, it doesn't reduce it the entire time, and there are other frequencies that you can adjust simultaneously. You can uncouple the source frequency, which has benefits that I'm not going to go into for the sake of time now, and I may not be able to explain it as articulately as I want to as well. And boy, are we rabbit trailing, and I love that. So the thing about the fab filter. So obviously we've started this conversation, so we're going to need to be spending more time in the box on Saturday morning. So I'm all down with that. Thank you for the invitation. Yeah. So the other thing is that if I march over to the rat pedal, instead of a tone control, it actually says filter. So the concept of using a filter kind of goes back way back in the day. I remember this would have been 1981. I remember going and seeing a student of Joe Satriani's, and Joe may or may not have been there seeing this guy play. I think he was, and it was in this Laval's Pizzeria underneath Tower Records on Durant in Berkeley. And this poor guy's Marshall was kind of like, you could hear it dying slowly, but it was very clearly on whatever, bad tubes or something. But he was using a rat pedal. I remember associating that memory with my early thoughts of a rat pedal. I'm like, that didn't sound so good. However, rat pedal's great. And instead of a tone control, it's got a filter. So yes, the filter stuff. And I think you sent me that demo. It's Marty's Guitar Tech demoing that Marty Friedman pedal. That flipping sounds amazing. So what's going on, Metalhead Knitting? You can't quite see it, but your Telecaster is here somewhere. Where is the Knitting? Yeah, you can see the headstock of Knitting's Telecaster right there. Okay. Okay. Creamy. Awesome. I'm usually 5 to 7K, 90-ish on the bottom. That sounds good. Oh, killer. Great. Awesome. Thank you for the feedback. Because by the time it gets compressed a little bit going over the stream, I know that the audio suffers a little bit. But that was kind of fun. So thank you for egging me on. I don't take much encouragement, but gosh darn it, thank you. What's going on, Braxo? Lunchtime. All right. Happy lunch. Got some interesting modulations that weren't planned there. It's a really cool sounding guitar. All right. Nandini, Doug, is the guitar a bit louder than my voice? Difficult to hear you over the guitar. I can fix that. How about now? How about that? And always appreciate the feedback. Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have to get back to demoing this thing. And I wanted to spend some time hanging out with you because I didn't want to cancel, because that's not cool. I am so grateful to have this community of people to hang out with. And by the way, I just want to kind of just speak to old dogs and old Dougs learning new tricks. Awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate it. First of all, always let me know if something's like not right, because I'm not a headphones kind of guy, although there are headphones there. And generally I'm kind of doing this. I do some pre-production, and generally once I get things set, but I have the ability to monitor in the room, and I get kind of excited and like to turn it up a little bit. So one of the things that I'm doing here is I'm running the Boss SD1. Hand to the front end of the boogie, which is something I would never normally do. But there's a million metalhead fanatics that like, I only use a drive pedal into the front end. And for whatever reason, the little super overdrive, the SD1, is kind of, there's actually camera 4? Well, that's not a very good shot, but that's actually camera 5. There we go. So that is a drive pedal board. And so in the video that I'm going to do for which one is it? The amp on the bottom. That is the 90s Triple Rec reissue. I'm basically going to play through at least 4 different drive pedals to demonstrate kind of 4 of the most popular drive pedals that are out there, as well as one that people might not have used, which is the MXR, what do you call it, the GTOD, and by the kind of the funny green color, it's kind of obviously Tube Screamer flavored. And I saw that over there in the pile, and I was like, oh, you know what, I need to try that. Sounds great. And the normal thing that you do is basically you kind of set the tone noonish, and then kind of either bump it or boost it. I should cut it or boost it, and then most people turn the level all the way up, and then don't use any of the gain. I've experimented and found that when I bring the level all the way up versus bringing it down a little bit, the amp is a little bit more dynamic. And yes, it's a Boss Overdrive pedal it's actually right there in the rack. But then if I bring up the drive, the amp is a little bit more dynamic because I don't have the level of the pedal all the way up. How about I hit the bend? Eventually get to the neck pickup, which can sometimes, if you have too much gain, you can lose this dynamic. You can kind of hear the sound of my fingertip. Even when I'm tapping, you can kind of hear that pokiness. So as an end result, I found that backing off the level control, which most of the guys are like, level all the way up, pummel the front end of the amplifier, but you lose some of that dynamic range. And again, ironically, by backing that off, then kind of going, what happens if I turn the gain up? Huh. And in this case, it's called the drive, but same deal. And it's just brought it up a little bit. But it enables me to just kind of, here's the drive all the way down. Bring it up a little bit. Bring it up a little bit more. And a little bit more after that, because more. And all of a sudden you get to, you kind of feel that, And this is the thing, getting back, Chris, to your question, there's a certain point where all the things, the soup, the effects, the drive pedal going to the front end of the amp, inside the DAW, the delay and the reverb running in parallel. And the thing that's neat, normally on the neck pickup, I wouldn't go for that voicing of the dominant 7. But because I'm not pummeling the front of the amp, there's still enough dynamic headroom that the bottom end isn't getting tubby. That's one other thing about the drive pedals. I have a tendency to tighten up the bottom end as well. Got, in my opinion, a nice amount of pick attack. And kind of all of that is the soup, in my opinion. Okay, yes. Yes, hey, what's going on, Rick? Great to see you. Hello, hello. Great to see you. Hello, hello, hello. Always a pleasure. Hello. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I need to kind of get back to kind of working on this thing. Great hanging out with you. I look forward to seeing you next Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific. Thank you for spending your time with me. Much appreciated. Wish you an awesome weekend. Much love. Thanks again. I'll see you next time. Thanks for all the great questions as well. Chris, Brett, and everybody for hanging out. Cheers. Bye for now. Matt as well. Cheers.